God, Gina, I'm passionate about this. I'm so passionate about hearing all sides of the story. And for you to disregard the fact that white privilege exists is beyond me.
Okay, we all have white privilege. We don't know what it's like to not have it, because we do. We go everywhere and we have that. We don't know the difference. We don't know what it's like to not have it. And I said, we can't look at who's up here. We can't move forward as all being people of white privilege. We can't, because we don't know the difference of not having it.
Because I'm white, you think I was privileged my whole life? Are you kidding? I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. When they came here, my grandfather came, they didn't speak English, but they assimilated. But I resent that you think that I had white privilege. Everybody I work for or with is usually from another country. And they say to me, here's what they say, is we as Americans don't realize, and it doesn't matter what color we are as Americans, because I believe we are all Americans, is that we are privileged to just live here. So I don't want to think that this body doesn't feel that they can't represent people because they're white. And that, again, to me is just saying, I'm different because of color. No, I might be different because of culture, because of tradition, but those are the things that I think I always ask because I work with these people. I ask about their country, I ask about their families, I ask how it is, how they feel about America, all of that. That's how you get to know somebody. That's how you get to understand where they come from and where their opinions come from. But I don't think you can make such a broad brush and say that we've all been privileged or that we don't understand because we're white.
You are the exact reason we need this commission. If you don't understand white privilege, then you are not representing those people. You're not willing to listen to them. And what you have just said is the most racist.
Excuse me? Don't you ever accuse me of that. You have no basis to say something like that in public, and no basis to say something like that.
Then let me rephrase it. That statement was one of the most racist things I've ever heard.
What statement?
That you are offended by the fact that you're not feeling the white privilege thing. White privilege exists, and it is something that we need to accept in this country. In my opinion, you're interrupting me, and by golly, I'm running this meeting.
We're on camera, and you're accusing me of something pretty big here. It's unacceptable because you have no basis for it.
You're out of order. You're out of order. No, I have basis for it based on what you just said.
No, you don't.
Well, because you said hi to Bernard, you understand?
Oh, excuse me, I probably know many more people of color than you do, and I work with them, so I do not want to have this argument with you, but you're
out of order.
And you're out of line.
Okay, fine. Let me just say this, that the discussion I just heard now makes me so angry. I'm shaking. You refuse to understand how other people in this community feel.
How do you?
But you refuse.
How do I refuse?
Because you're obviously not going to support this. You're obviously not going to support this. And what you're doing.
You don't know what I'm going to support, but I have a
Quit
plan.
interrupting me.
You're accusing me of things that are wrong.
Quit interrupting me. I'm going to finish my statement. What I heard was a racist statement. What I heard was a racist statement. No. You're just crediting. God damn it, Gina. I'm passionate about this. I'm so passionate about hearing all sides of the story. And for you to disregard the fact that white privilege exists is beyond me.
Ronald Reagan used to say, liberals aren't dumb. It's just that everything they know is wrong. I used to get that proved to me almost every day when my brother and I were doing a radio show at the biggest talker in Delaware, WDEL. We're the official guest hosts over there. And, we were on, so my brother's a big liberal, I'm not, so we would be on there for 3 hours. My brother, he kind of pays attention to what's happening around the world. I mean, he knows the difference between a Sunni and a Shiite. He knows what's happening with the Saudis in Yemen. He knows what's happening over in Iran and Iraq and in Europe, the Catalans. So he's got a good understanding of that. I mean, he'll tell you, he meets people from these countries around Delaware. He'll meet somebody from Pakistan or India, and he'll start talking. I've had this happen 10 times. There's somebody from Lebanon. And he'll start talking about, the person in this party is fighting the person in that party and what the stakes are. He knows more about the politics of their home country than the people that just came from that country oftentimes. But before my brother became a world thinker, he was the consigliere for lots and lots of Democrats in the state of Delaware. Somebody who's running for governor, insurance commissioner, or state senator, or state assembly, they'd call him up and say, "Hey, John, what about this? What should I do about this? What should I think about that?" And, to this day, when they're in office, they call him up. "Hey, John, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that?" Sure, he helps them out all the time. But the people where he knows, the place where he knows the most people is where he was born and raised and never moved from, is Wilmington, Delaware. He knows all the Democrats on the city council. He was a consigliere to lots and lots of them. But for all the stuff my brother knows about what happened to Pakistan in the year 1722, whenever I ask him about what people he knows, people he helped elected, whenever I ask them about what they're up to, how they took this middle-class, working town, hard-scrabble, clean, good place to raise kids, how they totally ruined it and turned it into a cesspool of black criminality, violence, and denial, whenever I ask him that question, he looks at me like he doesn't know nothing about nothing. He doesn't know how any of the denial, deceit, and delusion he and his buddies have practiced on that city council, in that Democratic machine, in the entire region for 50 years. He doesn't have any idea how one thing led to another. We're starting to see this all over the country now, right? I was thinking of that when I see all these. It seems like every day we're reading about another college offering another course on white racism. This guy down in Florida, he's teaching, I don't know if he's teaching white people this or black people, probably both, how black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. And even if you're white, even if you're an ally, even if you're anti-racist, well, you've benefited from this 4 billion years of white racism, so you still have a lot to learn too. But for everything they want to teach us, they're like my brother. It's like they don't know about the things we want to know about. They don't know about the things happening right now in front of our face. Like this professor, if he were around here, I'd say, "Hey, professor, you professor of white racism, racial politics, the racial divide, what is up with Andrew McGarrigle?" Andrew McGarrigle is a white dude, 53-year-old white dude. He was a lifeguard in Atlantic City, spent his life saving other people's lives. Think about that. Think about how many people's lives you save over a 20-some year career as a lifeguard. How many people you inspire to save other people's lives. That's the kind of person he was. Until one day he ran into a guy we don't have any reason to think he knew. His name is Johnny Morgan. Johnny and two of his fellas got involved in some argy-bargy involving guns, drugs, money, and bitches. And somehow Andrew McGarrigle was involved in it. Maybe he was just on the scene. Somehow there was a beating, during the gunfire, during this criminality. Somehow Andrew got beaten. He was beaten to death. Took him 3 weeks to die. Died on Thanksgiving Day.
A Camden County man is now facing manslaughter charges stemming from the death of an Atlantic City lifeguard. 34-year-old Johnny Morgan was charged 3 weeks after the incident involving 53-year-old Andrew McGarrigle. The two got into some sort of a fight in the area of North Virginia Avenue in Atlantic City back on November 3rd. Authorities say McGarrigle suffered head injuries and died from them on Thanksgiving. Morgan is now charged with aggravated manslaughter.
But we don't really have any answers. I mean, we'll find out soon enough how they met, what the disagreement, I'm doing air quotes, what the disagreement was about. But when we do, will these geniuses, will these super geniuses and the reporters, will these super geniuses at the university, will they explain to us why black criminality is so wildly out of proportion, why black on white murder is 25, 30, 50, 100 times more likely than white on black murder? Will they explain that to us? Will anyone even ask? Will anyone even ask the question, why does Atlantic City have such an enormous no-go zone? And how can you imagine that this no-go zone is just going to be this imaginary line creating this no-go zone is just going to remain constant forever? Don't you think the no-go zone is going to creep towards the tourist areas where people feel safe? I've been to Atlantic City a bunch of times. My daughter went to Atlantic City once. She was going there on business. I said, listen, go to your hotel. She was staying not on the boardwalk, staying, I think, in another place, a really nice place off the boardwalk. Go to your hotel, but just don't leave the hotel. Because if you walk out that door, you take a wrong turn, you're in a place you don't want to be in Atlantic City. And that's the kind of thing we tolerate now. That's why, and if we tolerate that entire swaths of places like Atlantic City are no-go zones for white people, I mean, guess we can tolerate, or guess we can expect, I guess we can think it's normal that people like Andrew McGarrigle are just going to somehow stumble into that kind of zone, or the zone's going to stumble into him. Either way, he's going to end up dead. And we look at each other like we never heard this before. We look at each other like this kind of thing does not happen in Atlantic City, or in Camden, or in Trenton, or points north and south of Atlantic City, all along the eastern seashore. We can't get one professor to come forward and tell us why Andrew McGarrigle had to die, why Johnny Morgan had to be the one to kill him. Nothing to say about that, professors? How did it get so easy to put aside the pursuit of truth for the pursuit of an even more important goal of not making the black kids angry?